everyday thing when you let your nuts hang.
Hey guys, okay, so I know everybody has been waiting on a story time. Thank you for being so patient. I'm going through a lot right now, and I just had to wait until I was able to get my health stuff kind of at bay so that I can make this video for you guys. So the event that occurred, it happened on the night of January 14th, 2019 to kind of like the morning of January 15th, 2019. On January 14th, I had worked my normal first shift. I worked 5 a.m. to 4 p.m. and I had gone home, and then about 5 o'clock I got a phone call saying that the third shift guy was not able to make it that night and they needed coverage. So I was really the only one that was available, so I was like, yeah, I'll work it. I enjoy working the night shift. So normally we get a rush somewhere around 11:30 because one of the factories across the street, that's what time they go on lunch. So everybody just comes over to either heat up their food or grab a snack, whatever. I noticed a car come through the parking lot. They drove in from one side and then kind of looped around the building. If you know the way that the store is set up, then you know that it is kind of like a big circle around the building. So I had noticed that car come through the parking lot, and I automatically recognized what kind of car it was. So at this point, I'm on high alert, like I'm watching everything, keeping an eye out. Just, I had my senses turned up a little bit. So we made it through the rush. I was the only one working. We only had one person working on night shift at that point. I don't know what they do now. So I had restocked all the food, cleaned the fountain, drinks, mopped the floors, just did all of the normal tasks that you have to do during your shift. So every night around midnight, we would get a donut delivery. We got our donuts delivered from Chattanooga, and it was always midnight, 12:15, never any later than 12:15. And it was about 12:30 and the donut delivery guy hadn't shown up yet, which I was like, okay, they're just kind of, running behind at this point. I don't know. That's an important thing. Keep that in mind. So around 12:45, I had gone outside to take like a little nicotine break real quick. If you know, if you work at a gas station, nicotine is a necessity. You can't get through the day without it. So I was standing outside, just kind of minding my own business, playing on my phone, and then I look up and I look to my left, and two guys were walking towards me. There were no cars in the parking lot, and they had come from behind the building. So again, if you know how the building is set up, I can see where all of the parking spots are. So I knew they came from around the building. They both had face coverings on, and I knew exactly what was about to happen. Thinking about it now, I probably could have made it back in the store and locked the doors before they got to me, but I froze. My whole body just kind of went numb, and I froze. They got about three or 4 feet away from me and pulled out a knife and looked at me and said, "Let's go." So I walked in the store. They came in behind me, still had the knife out. I don't remember if they both had a knife or if just one of them did, but there was a knife involved. So obviously they had me open the cash register. They took all the money out of the cash register, like even the dimes, nickels, and pennies. They had told me to open the safe. The safe has a time delay on it. It does not open automatically. I don't know what kind of safe they have now. I know it would still have a time delay on it, but at this point the time delay was, I think, 7 minutes. So that's what I told them, it's a time delay. I can't physically open it right this minute, but there's nothing I can do. It's a 7-minute delay. So one of the guys was older and one was younger, and I could just tell that in their voice. Obviously I couldn't see their faces, but you can tell if someone is older, younger, based on their voice. So as they were waiting for the safe to open, I was just kind of standing off to the side. I had my hands up and I was praying harder than I had ever prayed before in my life. I was absolutely terrified. The older guy looked at me and said, "I'm not trying to hurt you, but I've got to make a living." So in the time that they were waiting, my purse was sitting on the counter. I had always left my purse on the counter, like I never thought anything about it. So they had found my purse and they went through my wallet. I didn't have any cash on me. I never carry cash. But the older guy had made a point to pull out my driver's license and look at my driver's license. That was one of the big things that scared me the most once everything was said and done. So they were waiting 7 minutes for the safe to open, and while they were waiting, they were getting cases of beer, cartons of cigarettes, vapes, and a toolkit that was in the back room. So the younger guy kept telling the older guy, "Hey, we need to go. We need to leave. Like, we're gonna get caught." And he kept calling him Pops. So in my head, I'm thinking this is like a father-son duo. I didn't know. I was just trying to listen to what they said so that whenever the cops got there, I could talk to them and tell them like every detail that I possibly could about these people. But at the same time, I was praying that I was not going to be hurt. I was not going to be unalived. I was terrified. So as we're all standing there, they're getting all of the stuff that they want to get. I see headlights, and it's our donut delivery driver. He is pulling in the parking lot finally. He had finally made it there. At this point, it's like 12:50, 12:52, somewhere around there. They grab everything that they possibly can, and they take off running out of the store. They're dropping stuff on the way. I think they dropped half of what they were trying to take. They had parked their car down at the road on like the 41A side. So they took off running. They ran out the door to the right and then ran down the hill. The donut delivery driver literally did a U-turn and almost flipped his box truck chasing them. And then the donut guy was able to like flag down a cop, because we always had cops roll through the parking lot to just check on us, make sure we were okay during third shift, and they wouldn't leave until we waved at them. So that's what this cop was doing. He was just coming in to do a check on us. The delivery driver like flashed his lights, waved him down, told him what was going on, and the cop started chasing these two guys. They ended up having to terminate the pursuit because they had gotten over 100 miles an hour and it wasn't safe anymore for them to continue, but they did get the license plate. So they went to the address that the plate was registered to, and they found the car there. The hood was still warm, showing that, it had been running. So the next day, they had found the car again, and they arrested the two guys. One of them was 54 years old, and the other was 18. I will go into detail about the 54-year-old. He was on parole, but we'll go into that later. So the cops obtained a search warrant for the apartment, and once they went into the apartment, they found the cases of beer, the cartons of cigarettes. Like, they found most of what was stolen that night. And the 18-year-old was still wearing the same clothes that he was wearing whenever he was in the store, whenever he was arrested the next day. Sorry guys, I'm getting kind of shaky just talking about this, so I'll be back in a second. Okay, so obviously whenever they were first arrested, they were both saying, I didn't do it. That's what everybody does whenever they're first arrested. So at this point, even though I knew that they had been arrested, I was terrified. I mean, I couldn't sleep. I did not want to be home alone because they had looked through my license. I wouldn't go out in public, but I didn't want to be home alone. So it was a very difficult time. The PTSD was real, and I started therapy, like within a week or so because I had to do something. I'm not going to say names. If you want to know names, I'm sure you could look it up and find it on Google. So the 54-year-old was arrested in the summer of 1991. He had robbed a gas station in Nashville on Nolensville Pike, and him and I believe it was his stepbrother unalived the lady that was working. He had served 25 years and 7 months, and he was released in September of 2016. So the trial for this incident was not until November of 2021. If you see me looking away, it's because I wrote down the dates so that I wouldn't get the dates wrong whenever I was telling you guys. During the trial, I obviously had to get up on the stand and testify, and I had to watch myself on the video getting robbed on 7 different angles. So I had to watch it 7 different times. As traumatic as
the store robber, sentenced to 20 years, armed with a knife on January 15, 2019, 54-year-old Leslie Lamont Coleman walked into the Circle K convenience store on Madison Street in Shelbyville, intended to steal cash and merchandise. His accomplice was 18-year-old Deontay Ferris, the son of Coleman's girlfriend. Coleman and Ferris, however, took much more than $78 in cash, 18 cans of Bud Light beer, 2 cartons of cigarettes, and smokeless tobacco products. They also robbed the female store clerk of her self-confidence and sense of well-being. As a result of the incident, it is on the court record that she suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder. She went to counseling for over 2 years. And she says, being a victim of an armed robbery has changed my life dramatically. Coleman, whose nickname Fat Dog, still maintains his innocence, but jury found him guilty on November 10th, 2021. And last week, January 20th, he was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Fat Dog will not be eligible for early release. So he got 20 years in prison. So 2021, 2041, he'll be well into his. Okay. Accomplice Ferris testified against Coleman 5 days after Coleman's trial. Ferris pled guilty and was sentenced to 6 years, which he will serve on supervised probation. Ferris was held in jail for over 2.5 years awaiting trial, believed to be one of the longest pretrial incarcerations in Bedford County criminal case. 28 years, 1 month, and 7 days before he walked into the Shelbyville Circle K, Coleman, who was 24 years old at the time, and his 17-year-old stepbrother robbed a Jim Dandy market on. Oh, this is talking about Coleman. Coleman actually killed somebody before in another armed robbery, so that's why he got a 20-year sentence. So the 18-year-old really got off. He got off with, he spent 2 years in the county jail with, that's nothing, I guess.
that was, I knew I had to get through it. I knew that this would provide some type of closure for me to be able to look at him and tell him exactly like how I felt, all the emotions that I was going through. And I actually kind of shut down his defense attorney. He kept asking me what I would consider stupid questions, so I was just being a smartass. Like, don't ask me stupid questions and you won't get stupid answers. So, due to his previous convictions, he was sentenced to 20 years in prison, plus he had to serve the remainder of his original sentence. So, altogether, he got a total of 43 years with no chance of parole. So, once I found out that he was serving 43 years, I was ecstatic. I was still on edge quite a bit. I mean, to this day, I still have PTSD. If I see somebody that looks similar to either one of them, like in a store or something, I shut down. You know, I can't be home alone a lot of times. Like if it's nighttime, I can't be home alone. So let's talk about the 18-year-old. I was asked after the trial, when he was found guilty, before the sentencing trial, what kind of sentence for him I personally felt comfortable with. I have a lot of leniency for him because I believe the only reason that he did that was because he was pressured by the older guy. And the older guy was actually his mom's boyfriend at the time. So when they asked me what I felt comfortable with for his sentencing, I told them that I was fine with time served, because at this point he had served almost 2.5 years. So that's what they did. They sentenced him to 6 years, but 2.5 in jail and the rest on probation. For me, it felt like I was kind of giving him a second chance to get his life together, you know, start a different path in life that wasn't going to lead to this. And from what I understand, he did not turn his life around. He has been in and out of jail quite a bit since that time. For me, knowing that I was robbed by somebody who was convicted of murder, it was hard. It's still hard to this day, because if that donut delivery driver had not shown up when he did, would I still be here? Would I have been injured? You know, what would the outcome have been? And that's the thoughts that go through my head. I still have nightmares. I still have PTSD from this. And some people might say, well, you weren't injured, you know, nothing happened to you. It took away my sense of security. It took away a lot of confidence. You know, it took a lot away from me, and it took a lot for me to be able to bounce back from that. And I'm still bouncing back, you know. I'm working on myself every single day. But to have somebody take that away from you, it's traumatizing. I loved my job at Circle K. I was an assistant manager. I was on track to become a store manager. You know, things were going great, and I was very proud of myself. I did try to go back to work at Circle K after the robbery. Obviously not immediately. Like, I took some time off. And then the first time I saw myself on a third shift schedule, I was done. You know, I had told them, absolutely not, I will never work third shift again. And being an assistant manager, there was no need for me to be on third shift. None at all. But as soon as they put me back on third shift, I was done. So I lost the job that I was trying to turn into my career because of them. I'm thankful. I'm blessed. And I know that God was watching over me. That day, that night, it could have turned out completely different. But God has a purpose for me. He knows that, you know, I can do great things in the world. And me sharing my story, it takes a lot of strength. And I was terrified to share it. You know, I did not expect that video to blow up like it did. But once I started seeing people asking for a story time, I was like, you know, maybe me sharing my story can do some good. You know, I've seen creators who have been on the other side who have been convicted of armed robbery, and the support that they get, it's great. You know, if you get out of jail and you turn your life around, congratulations, and I am extremely proud of you. But being on this side of it, it's hard. It's very hard, but I'm making it, and I'm making it in life.
What to do, everyday people, man? It's your boy PJ. Today we back with another lit video. Back in the confessional. Yes, we staying lit, big dog. Shout out to my everyday people who rock with me every day. Yeah, tough pill to swallow. She went through a traumatizing situation. I'm assuming she's never been in something as intense like that in her life, and you know, that's what it do. You again, she says she sees people who are creators that get convicted of robbery and they get out and they tell their stories and they get on social media and they got these big platforms and people watch them because I guess they just feel like, oh, this he's just a badass. And they just watch him. And I get it. Most criminals are like kind of interesting. I mean, you got to be interesting when you in prison. You better be interesting or you're going to be interested in, you know. Then the other side is those people hurt people. And when they hurt people, the trauma that they put people through, yeah, they can move on with their life. They probably won't be able to experience a lot of things, but they can move on. But while Amanda is stuck nervous about black people. And it ain't all black people. Sorry, Amanda, but yeah, I understand. But I understand. But just to think that like her fear from black people came from some idiots, you know, who just one of them who just couldn't get his life together, never tried to get his life together. One of them was too young to even try to get his life together and was brought into a situation and has changed his life for the worse, you know? And now I'm pretty sure they were local. So with them being local, she could easily be seen, or they could easily have been in the same place at the same time. You know how many times I remember like the day before I went to prison, I got into it with some people and I did something that, I did something. But when I got out of prison, I never got in trouble for that. But when I got out of prison, I got a job and I was working at the fairgrounds, and I was working at the fairgrounds delivering ice. Because when I got home, I started working with Ready Ice, delivering ice. And so when they offered us they said, who want to work the fair? I was like, I work the fair, get to chill out all day, eat free food, take people ice, simple stuff, right? And then I seen the dude that, and yeah, he didn't want none. But I'm saying, he was probably still messed up from that day. So, it is what it is. Sometimes you gotta live and you gotta learn. I don't know how he felt. I know he didn't want to do nothing, but I know he was probably like, damn, there go that punk mo, you know. But like I said, you'll run into people You'll run into people that you don't know. She could, if they got a fair out there in Shelbyville, she could easily walk by that guy and recognize him. He might not recognize her, but she will definitely recognize him, because it's playing in her mind every day. Everyday people, let me know what y'all think about this crazy situation in the comment section.